Rain tapped against the tin roof, a bleak rhythm for a bleak life. Pong sat motionless on his porch, the third glass of whiskey a cold comfort in his hand. The musty smell of damp walls and cheap alcohol hung in the air, the bitter perfume of failure. It had been 3 weeks since he lost his job. His money was almost gone. The phone shattered the silence. An unfamiliar number. He hesitated, then answered. A raspy voice, a strange mix of Thai and some forgotten dialect, whispered, "You seek change, don't you? Come to me. I can give you what you need." Something in that tone, part promise, part curse, was a hook he couldn't resist. Soon, he found himself lost in a dark alley in old Bangkok, a place forgotten by time. Faded signs hung crookedly, lamps flickered, and the air was thick with the smells of incense and decay. He entered a creaking wooden house. Inside, an old man sat, his eyes cloudy, his smile unsettling. Without a word, he slid a small wooden jar across the table, its lid sealed with dark wax. "Inside is a guardian spirit," the old man rasped, "bound to fortune. Care for it, and it will bless you. Ignore it, and it will not be pleased." Pong didn't believe in such things, but desperation makes men foolish. He handed over the last of his cash and took the jar home. The next few days were a blur of good fortune. Job offers flooded in. Money, for the first time in ages, was no longer a worry. He moved into a bright, modern apartment, a world away from the damp decay of his old life. Every morning, he dutifully placed a glass of fresh milk and a lit candle before the jar. Sometimes, as he whispered his thanks, he thought he heard faint breathing just behind him, or the soft creak of wood settling in the quiet room. He told himself it was just his imagination. But soon, the nights brought new sounds. Soft murmurs, almost tender, yet deeply wrong, seemed to seep from the walls. His dreams were filled with laughter that didn't belong to anyone he knew, a chilling, bodiless smell. Then, one morning, he found the offerings untouched. The milk had soured overnight. A heavy, unnatural cold filled the room, a stark contrast to the morning sun streaming through the window. Pong tried to ignore it, to dismiss the unease coiling in his gut, but the signs became impossible to overlook. Lights began to flicker without reason. His reflection in the mirror would sometimes twist for a split second, a grotesque distortion of his own face. And a new smell permeated the air, faintly sweet, like spoiled sugar. His professional success soared, but his home was becoming a prison. The temperature would drop suddenly, even with the air conditioner off, chilling him to the bone. He'd hear footsteps echoing in empty rooms. In mirrors and polished surfaces, he'd catch glimpses of shadows standing where no one should be. The feeling of being watched was constant, a heavy weight on his shoulders. One night, a sound pulled him from a restless sleep, a slow, deliberate tapping from the kitchen. Pong crept towards the noise, his heart hammering against his ribs. The wooden jar sat on the table, its lid slightly ajar, the wax seal cracked and broken. Inside, a darkness swirled like thick smoke. As he stared into the void, a cold breath brushed against the back of his neck, and a whisper slithered into his ear. "You forgot me." He stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat. In an instant, the room plunged into darkness as every light bulb burst with a sharp pop. The shadows stretched, elongating, twisting into something vaguely human, a form that smiled where no mouth should be. Panicked, Pong lunged for the jar, his only thought to smash it, to end this nightmare. But a searing pain shot through his chest, freezing him in place, a puppet on invisible strings. From that night on, the haunting was relentless. The brief period of neglect had unleashed something terrible. Every day, he brought more offerings, not just milk, but sweets, toys, even expensive jewelry he bought with his newfound wealth. He pleaded for forgiveness, but the cold in his apartment only grew stronger, more invasive. The walls seemed to weep moisture. His mirrors would fog over with strange, cryptic symbols. Sometimes he'd wake in the dead of night to see his own reflection in the darkened window. Its head turned just slightly, moving out of sync with his own terrified stillness. Desperate, he sought help at temples, but the monks would take one look at him and turn away, their faces etched with pity and fear. "This is beyond prayer," one told him softly. "You invited it into your home. You must bear it." In a last, hopeless attempt, he returned to the alley in old Bangkok. But the creaking house was gone. The space was empty, seamlessly swallowed by the surrounding city, as if it had never existed. He tried calling the old man's number again. This time, all he heard was a dry, distant laugh before the line went dead. One evening, after another long day at a job he now hated, Pong walked into his apartment and froze. The jar was on the table, wide open. Every candle he owned was lit, casting a faint, flickering orange glow. Arranged in a circle around the jar were his own photographs, snapshots of a happier time, of smiling faces and sunny days. And in the center of it all, the jar pulsed with a faint, sickly light. Then came the voice. It wasn't in his ear this time, it was everywhere, whispering from within the very walls of his home, a sound both intimate and eternal. "You belong with me now." The lights didn't just flicker, they exploded in a shower of glass and sparks. A wave of absolute darkness and cold surged through the room, so intense it felt solid. Pong opened his mouth to scream, but the air froze in his lungs. The next morning, concerned neighbors found his apartment door ajar. Inside, everything was pristine, silent. The soured milk, the broken glass, the strange symbols all gone. It was all clean. Except for Pong. He was sitting upright on the sofa, his eyes wide open, his skin as pale and cold as ice. In his hands, he held the small wooden jar. Its wax seal was fresh, smooth, and unbroken, as if it had never been opened at all.